Since there's only 2 weeks left until the start of the GCSE exam season, I decided that it's now time to change the topics that I talk about just a little bit. I could just sit here for weeks and just milk the 1 month left until the start of the GCSE exam season. 3 weeks left, 2 weeks left, 1 week left. But it's gonna get to the point where I'm just repeating the same advice over and over again. It'll be repetitive. And if I'm honest, if I'm doing it, it's probably just for the views. But I really want to help you guys out. So instead, I decided to make this relatively short video on how you should be studying in the days leading up to your GCSE or A-level exam. Now, before I tell you how you should be revising in the days leading up to your GCSE or A-level exam, you need to first understand a very, very important concept, which is your studying should be dynamic, not static. For example, let's talk about my trademark NFT method, which stands for notes and then flashcards and then test questions. You go through the content and make notes, and then you use those notes and the content you went through to make flashcards, and then you apply that content using practice questions. You see, the key word there is then. Notes, then flashcards, then test questions. Your brain 3 months before an exam is not going to be the same as your brain the day of the exam. Makes sense, right? So then why would you study the same way in both scenarios? If you lift weights, you know about the concept of progressive overload. It just basically means that every training session, you should be increasing the weight you're doing or the number of reps you're doing per set. You should always do more than the last session because your muscles have adapted to that last session. Likewise, this concept can be applied to revision as well. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying something along the lines of start by revising 1 hour a day and then every week increase it by 20 minutes or something like that. What I'm saying is, as your brain starts adapting to the content you're giving it, you should be slowly changing it. You should be doing different things to constantly challenge it and get it ready to that exam sharpness. Now, hopefully by now, you understand why studying should be dynamic and not static. Now let's talk about how you should actually be revising in the days leading up to an exam. In my GCSE and A-level days, what I would do in the days leading up to an exam is something that I would call ironing out any creases in my knowledge. You see, at this point, I should basically know all of the content. There shouldn't really be any chapter that I wouldn't know that well. Prior to this point, I would have been doing a lot of flashcards to really drill the content in my brain and also practice questions to make sure that I'm applying it in the right way. But now, all I need to do is just iron out any creases in my knowledge. Any small details that I'm missing, that's what I'm aiming for. But before we target those details, how do we actually find them? Well, first, make sure that you actually read the syllabus. Fortunately, a lot of people think that since they use a textbook or a study guide, that they've automatically covered everything in the syllabus. But a lot of the time, there might be hidden points in the syllabus that you just overlook and they creep up on you in the actual exam, and then you lose marks over it. You shouldn't only be reading the syllabus to find those small details. You should also be spamming practice questions. Now, you've probably heard it 100 times by now. Practice questions are the most important part of any study routine because they show you exactly what the examiner wants. I've personally said it probably 50 times. But an overlooked benefit of practice questions is that through the mark scheme, you could see the small details that the examiner would expect. You see, the syllabus is not a textbook. It just gives you general points about the information that you should know something about, but it doesn't actually give you the details. And the problem with that is that you never actually really know the amount of detail that you need to get into. And the only way you can know that is just by spamming practice questions. And that's why the best way to iron out any creases in your knowledge is to read the syllabus and just continue spamming practice questions. But with a slight twist, anytime you come across a question and you think to yourself, this is something I need to iron out, turn it into a flashcard. You see, you might not remember the mark scheme if a similar question comes up on the exam. But once you turn it into a flashcard and do it a couple of times before the exam, that's how you know for sure that you're going to remember it. Now let me tell you what you should not be doing in the days leading up to an exam. The first thing is to pull all-nighters or stay up late just to study. At this point, a couple of days leading up to the exam, sleep is way more important than any information you could cram into your brain. Trust me, the only thing you're doing to yourself is sleep depriving yourself and making it more likely that you don't get the top grades. And another thing you shouldn't do is to sacrifice any exercise or any other hobbies that you usually do. Exercise in itself has benefits that are directly linked into increasing your cognitive ability. And so don't think that the 30 minutes you spend getting in a light workout won't translate into getting the top grades. In fact, it will probably help you. Now you could find more tips like this, as well as everything you need from A to Z to getting the top grades in your GCSEs in the ultimate guide to acing your GCSEs. Just look at what these guys that took it have to say. And you might think that it's a bit too late, but this is a program that you could take in a weekend and implement straight away. You see, no matter if there's 4 months left until the exam or 2 weeks, I can guarantee that you'll find it beneficial. And the principles explained within the program are also applicable to A-levels. I use the same techniques in both GCSEs and A-levels to get the top grades. We previously had an offer of 20% off, and I've extended that until May 9th, the official start of the GCSE exam season. And if you don't benefit, then we offer a 30-day money-back guarantee, so there's no risk whatsoever. So why don't you invest into your future? Invest into getting the top grades so you could get into a good uni and get a good career and so on. Click the first link in the description now if you're interested.